Hey there, and welcome back to Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, the game! Thanks to the unexpected release of the dev build, I can, at long last, deliver what has been requested for so many years. The time has finally come to cover each and every single AI character in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, the game. Much like I've done for the DLC characters, this video will run down the characters' visual appearance, including any bugs or distinctions they may have, their gameplay specifics including health, weapons, and other combat capabilities, what advanced maneuvers they can perform, run down their basic gameplay behavior, throw in a little background bonus trivia, and even give them a full-on test in battle. I will be doing this for each and every single AI enemy in the game, first starting with the Autobot enemies, and then hitting the Decepticons afterwards. Well, this has been a long time coming, and it would be a shame to make you wait any longer. So at long last, let's transform, roll out, and bring on some bots. Starting off our Autobot analysis, we have the Omnibot Scout. These pesky bots turn up at the first main mission in the Decepticon campaign, Shanghai Shootout, and are generally most commonly found at the early Shanghai missions, but do make occasional appearances across later zones as well. He has two distinct color variations, the blue one you have before you, and the red and white one we'll cover shortly. Visually, this is probably my least favorite design in the game. There's just something about the proportions and the head design that just never really felt like a Transformer to me. At least, not a movie-based Transformer. Anyway, this first skin of the Omnibot is primarily blue, with various yellow stripes scattered about the robot mode. The majority of the AI characters tend to share animations with that of an existing campaign character. In this case, the Omnibot Scout seems to be reusing Ratchet's animation set. At least for his idle and movement animations. Some of his other animations may be taken from other sources that we'll address as we go. He and the majority of the AI characters in this game were all designed by the legendary Ken Christensen, who also designed the drones in Transformers the game as well. The deco scene here generally follows what is seen in the original concept art, but there are a few noticeable differences that I'll point out as we run down him here. Starting up with the head, it is primarily blue, with two small antenna-like protrusions on the sides. It seems to be slightly inspired by the original G1 camshaft design, showing a faceplate-like design for the mouth, but as I've said already, this is a design that I'm not too crazy about personally. Proceeding down to the chest, the Omnibot Scout generally follows the concept art, except for one key distinction. He seems to have been originally designed to include a distinctive flame decal on the hood of the vehicle that would have likewise shown up in robot mode. But for whatever reason, that particular element never made it onto the final design. The most iconic aspects of the Omnibot Scout, though, have to be his unique kibble sets. The first of these are his rear upper wheels, that flow from his clavicle armor and off his upper back. They are some of the stranger takes I've seen of upper wheel kibble in this manner, but I guess they're alright. Lower down his back, he has two doors hanging along the lower sides. They can retract when he enters combat mode, making them function like an emotive section in a way. The rest of the back has some defining vehicle parts, mainly the side pipes in the center of the back and the windshield tucked away behind some upper armor. The back is probably my favorite part of this guy's design, to be honest. It just looks more coherent compared to some of the other parts of his design. Next, we have his shoulders, which are another component I'm not too particularly fond of. The design in general is very messy, with not a whole lot of coherence to it. Heck, even the artist himself isn't too fond of this piece either. The shoulders also have a couple other standout issues besides just their overall design. First off, they have a very peculiar solid black splotch on his diffuse texture that does not coincide with what is seen in the concept art. And frankly, it just looks odd. His specular map, however, does seem to be set up properly, with no dark portion present, but the diffuse for some reason has this odd obstruction. Not sure exactly what happened here, but I can certainly say this section is not supposed to be black. Additionally, the shoulders, as well as the majority of this guy's other parts, suffer from some horribly sharp UV seams. There are certain sections across this design where the colors of a single part clash in a way that make for a really obnoxious seam instead of being a whole concisive piece. The arms don't have much of significance to mention, though there is another case of obnoxious UV seams here, but it's not quite as noticeable here due to the game's shading. But trust me, if you were to check this guy out with just his diffuse texture, with no shading, you'd see how bad it looks. Proceeding down to the hips, the Omnibot Scout has a large section of armor protecting his private bits, as well as concealing a minor model he has. On the rear lower portion of his hips are some strange blue splotches on what should otherwise be uncolored metal. Not sure exactly how something like this slipped through the texturing phase, but it becomes quite the eyesore once you're aware of it. Moving down to the thighs, there also isn't much of note here to mention, other than some of the armor perhaps being a bit too bright in comparison to the surrounding armor, but overall, nothing too significant here stands out. Continuing down, we have the knees, which are actually split into two pieces, there being an upper and lower section, both separately rigged from each other with a couple yellow stripes lining the outer sides of the main knee pad. Otherwise, pretty standard stuff. Finally, we put our foot down with his feet, which are quite a bit more grungy and degraded compared to the concept art, which was originally designed to be pure blue, with some yellow stripes running from side to side. But instead, it's now just a dirty grungy piece with the stripes nowhere to be found. Checking them from the back, we have the rear taillights covering the back wheels, and besides that, there isn't much more afoot here. Well, that about sums up the visual analysis. Let's rumble over to gameplay.
Let's do it!
Starting with the health, the Omnibot Scout has a mere 150 HP, making them a trivial target to terminate. When it comes to movements, the Omnibot can perform the majority of the standard movements. He can walk, run, jump. No jump slam, however, at least not a functional one. Though, he can of course climb, up, left, right, and down. Interestingly though, he leaves no damage while doing so that's quite curious. As far as his actual game behavior goes, the Omnibot Scout is typically known for maintaining a good distance from his enemy, and will often seek a higher vantage point for a better target lock. However, they are easily dispatched by most attacks due to their incredibly low health, especially when your player is fully upgraded. That's all when it comes to movements. Let's transition over to his combat capabilities, starting with his ranged weapons. The Autobot Scout's weapon forms over his right hand, with the model being a straight reuse of Longhaul's primary weapon, with the same model being shared for both the primary and secondary weapons alike. When it comes to the actual weapons themselves, he first has his primary laser pistol, which reuses Ratchet's primary sound effects, with a moderate fire rate and range. It does 5.5 damage per shot, and can be fired 10 times before overheating, though his overheat has no distinct animation nor sound effects. And for his secondary weapon, he has the Loogie gun, which, fun fact, is another word for booger. That also reuses Ratchet's secondary sounds, fires a short-range energy arc that does 15 damage per hit, and can be fired 4 times before overheating. While in weapon mode, he can also dash in all 4 directions. Granted, his dodge distance is pretty pathetic. When it comes to a special ability, the Scout does not seem to have one, despite having active voice lines if you were to trigger it.
Breaking out the special weapon!
For melee, he can perform only a slow single punch that does 35 damage per hit. So nothing super special going on here. He has no charged attack to make note of, but he can toss cars into the air for an additional ranged attack. And that's all I've got for robot mode. Let's turn over into vehicle mode. Omnibot Scout, transform! Here we have the Omnibot Scout's car form, a slightly modified 1978 Pontiac Trans Am Firebird, with completely unique sound effects for his transformation, and shares the majority of his engine sounds with the Protectobot Scout. The vehicle is again primarily blue, with a set of dual yellow stripes running all the way around the sides of the vehicle. It's interesting to note that the concept art for the car featured a unique flame decal on the hood that was inspired by the original G1 Hot Rod figure. For some reason, however, this detail was cut and the hood was left bare blue instead. It is also worth noting though that despite appearing in robot mode, the vehicle is missing the Autobot insignia on the hood scoop. This must have been an oversight as it was included in robot mode, but it seems to have gotten neglected like the flame decal did. Who knows? Checking out the front of the car, several changes have been made from the source material to avoid any licensing issues. Mainly the reduction to one headlight instead of two, the obvious lack of a Pontiac logo on the front, and the switch to a smaller vertical indentation on the bottom of the bumper as opposed to the original longer horizontal indentation. Moving on to the sides, we have his wheels, which has some distinct red lines circling the rim, with a movie-based Autobot insignia dotting the center of the hubcap. Proceeding further, he also has some silver side pipes lining the bottom of the doors to give him a more street-savvy appearance. Moving to the rear of the vehicle, he has some distinctive Autobot text, meant to take the place of the original Trans Am text of the source vehicle. The rear lights have also been somewhat modified, with the lights being more filled out compared to the original segmented look, and in place of the license plate, there is now a grille section added to the center of the vehicle. Additionally, the rear of the car does have a slight bug, where a couple of his upper window meshes have the tendency to disappear when not directly in view. This is an issue that occurs to all the ROTF models, but usually they aren't quite as noticeable as this. The Omnibot, however, seems to have been set up in such a way where these two particular meshes will frequently disappear, even though they should realistically be in view. Taking a quick gander inside, the interior of the vehicle isn't anything special. It's just a couple chairs and a steering wheel using a really flat material. But since you're never really meant to see inside the vehicle, it isn't such a huge deal. That's all I can sum up for the visual analysis. Let's talk functionality. The Omnibot Scout's vehicle follows the standard vehicle gameplay. He can drive with a standard maximum speed of 78 miles per hour. Boost, which gets him up to 96 miles per hour. Power slide. Reverse. And for weapons, he fires two bright blue bolts that reuse Bumblebee's vehicle weapon sounds, does 4 damage per hit, can be fired around 40 times before needing to cool down. When it comes to advanced maneuvers, he can perform only the advanced jump. The advanced melee attack just bolts him back into robot mode, though he can partially perform the advanced ground pound. But he has only the initial animation for it and becomes permanently stuck in the descent sequence and cannot be broken out of it. Additionally, when it comes to his transformations in general, he has the standard stationary transformation, which seems to be completely unique, and the run transformation, which seems to be quite similar to Bumblebee's run transformation, at least when heading back to robot. Well, that wraps up the observations of the Omnibot Scout. It is now time to see how Omni he really is. Let's see what he's made of.
It's time to rumble.
For this test, I have commandeered Soundwave as my adversary, as he is really the only movie-based character I can spawn in here. I also have another Omnibot teammate to back me up, so I at least have somewhat of a fighting chance. Anyway, let's see what this guy can do. Get him, brother. Get him.
Decepticon coming in.
It's on him. Oh, I'm slow. Come on. Now, I'm stuck. No. Drive. I'm getting a height advantage.
Seeking higher ground.
Where is he? He's down below.
Oh, we got bad guys coming.
Nope. Stay down. This is my building. Oh no.
Decepticon coming in.
Ah! How did you get that shot? I'm getting out of here. Oh, I'm hit. Oh, I'm almost down. Hit. Escape. Where is he? Oh, no. Feel this. This doesn't seem very good. Oh, where is he? Oh, he's coming. He's just teasing me. Get out of here. Ah!
The enemy calls.
Oh, that's just salt in the wound. All right, let's go again. All right, round 2.
Decepticon, I'm taking him.
Help me out, brother.
friendly down.
I'm moving. Where is he? Yeah, he can't transform, so he ground pounds instead. It's some weird bug. This energy arc is not... Oh, very good.
I'm going down.
You'll never find me. Never. Where is he? Where is he? I hear him. I'm gonna hide here. Oh, there he is. Oh! Shot. Alright, let's do one more. Okay, I'm gonna go in close for this one. Maybe that'll work better. Yeah. Oh, that was worse. Okay, I think I've seen enough. Yeah, suffice to say, this guy isn't killing anybody. He's just too weak, and his weapons just aren't tough enough to do any decent damage, so... This guy's probably as weak as we're gonna get. Hopefully the other characters will prove stronger. Let's continue on to our next bot. Up next in our Autobot audit, we have Omnibot Scout 2. This second variation strikes a shimmering red and white color scheme, quite more vibrant compared to the previous blue deco. He, again, is most commonly found in the early Shanghai missions, but, like his blue counterpart, does appear in several later zones as well. This design, much like the blue, is very much faithful to the original concept art, but there are a few minor changes that were made that I'll address as we go through it. Since we've already covered the bulk of this character with the blue variant, I'll keep the visual analysis brief and just highlight specific aspects of this new variant's deco. Starting up at the head, the red-white Omni now features a nice blend of both white and red for a much more striking sight compared to just being plain blue. He even has a couple nice red streaks running down the back of his head as well. The deco on the chest lines up with the concept art pretty much perfectly, though one deviation I do notice is that the concept art lacks the Autobot insignia on the center of the chest, whereas the final game deco does include it. Moving to the back, the rear upper wheel kibble is now mostly red, with some small streaks of white lining the bottom. The side doors have a couple smaller red streaks on the top and bottom, with a large white streak running through the center. The shoulders are primarily white, with a couple streaks of red on the top and bottom again, and retain the same issues as the blue Omnibot, including the same black splotch at the top portion of the armor. The arms, interestingly enough, originally had an Autobot insignia near the bottom of the top armor, according to the concept art, as opposed to being included on the center of the chest. This is a change that I can actually appreciate, as an Autobot insignia on the arms really does seem like an awfully odd place to spot a faction symbol. Hip armor imitates the concept art deco pretty much perfectly, and thankfully, unlike the blue Omni, the red-white Omni does not have any color splotches on the back of the hips anywhere. So they got that fixed, at least. The thighs, again, don't have much of significance to mention, but the armor there does seem to be much more consistent in terms of value, and it doesn't stand out quite as much, so that's nice. And bringing it down to the feet, the center toe is, again, grungy and degraded compared to the clean and colored concept version. And to boot, he has some nice red streaks on his smaller side toes, which is a small but significant touch. And that's a wrap for the visual analysis, so let's kick it over to gameplay.
Let him have it.
Since we've covered the majority of this already with the blue Omni, we'll just stick to what is unique for this bot, which in this case falls strictly to his ranged weapons, which actually differ completely from the previous bot, though the weapon model is still the same straight reuse of Longhaul's primary weapon. Starting with the primary weapon, we have the machine gun, a decent rapid-fire weapon that uses sideways vehicle weapon sounds, does 2 damage per shot, and can be fired 50 times before overheating. So quite a bit more effective than the blue Omni's laser pistol. For the secondary weapon, Omni 2 has the Cold Light Ray gun, a slow, more efficient weapon that does 20 damage per hit, again reuses Ratchet's primary sounds, and can be fired 4 times before overheating. So far, it seems that his weapons will make him a bit more effective in combat compared to the blue, but that remains to be seen. Well, that's all I've got to cover for robot mode. Let's turn over into vehicle mode again. Omnibot Scout 2, transform! Once again, we have a slight knockoff version of the 1978 Pontiac Trans Am Firebird, this time running a slick red-white deco that looks super spiffy. It again follows the original concept art pretty faithfully, but there are a few slight deviations that I'll address as we go through him. And since I've covered all the main distinctions of this model already, I'll just briefly touch on some highlights of the new deco. Starting at the top, there's a wide red wrap along the top of the hood, though strangely, the hood scoop is again lacking the Autobot insignia, despite originally being in the concept art. Moving down to the sides, we have a thick stream of white running down the center of the car, with a red Autobot insignia lining the front fenders. However, according to the original concept art, this Autobot insignia was not originally present here at all. But that also isn't the only issue present in this particular area. Despite having detailing for the side vents on his normal map, and being present in the original concept art, the diffuse and specular textures are completely lacking any trace of these vents. The blue textures have it, so I'm not sure how or why these were missed. But since both vehicles do share the same normal map, that detail really should have been included on the red-white textures as well. The rear of the car has the same Autobot text logo, taking the place of that would-be Trans Am text. Not too much else to say here otherwise. And the interior of the car is much the same as the blue, so there really isn't much here to mention either. When it comes to gameplay, the vehicle functions exactly the same as the previous Omni, so there's nothing worth covering here either. Well, we've tried our luck with the blue bot to a disastrous result. Let's see if this bot's weapons yield a more potent result. Alright, Soundwave, deal with this.
Here comes trouble.
Get him, brother.
Take him out. They're taking damage.
Point rumble. Oh, we got him. Oh, nice work.
One less piece of scrap.
That was just one round. Let's hit it again and see if we can repeat this result. Okay, round 2.
Let's do it.
Now Sound is stuck. Hey, Soundwave, deal with this. Get Omni, you jerk. Got slick moves, bro. Come on, die! Oh, I'm out of here.
Requesting backup.
Taste my metal. Ah! Oh, he's smoking at least. So I'm doing something right. Okay, last round. Bring it on, Soundwave.
Engaging threat.
Come on. This is for all the marbles. Come on, we'll face him together. Oh.
No one shall stop us.
Yeah. Come on, come on, come on. Ah. All right. Well, I think we can safely say he's better than the blue, but not by much. But he has been able to get Soundwave consistently critical, so that's saying something. All right, that closes off the Scout. Let's move on to our next bot. Up next in our Autobot appraisal, we have the last of the Omnibot trio, the Omnibot Warrior. This beat-up bot, much like the Scouts, first appears at the first main level of the Decepticon campaign, Shanghai Shootout, and while he makes a brief appearance on the West Coast, he's actually phased out pretty quickly, and in total only shows up in 4 missions for the entire game. Visually, the Omnibot Warrior is a substantial improvement compared to the Omnibot Scout, having many more obvious vehicle parts scattered around his body, and likely takes his inspiration from G1 Overdrive. Fun fact, the Omnibot Warrior actually was planned to have a second color variation. Granted, it was just a lime green deco of this one, but still, it's interesting to note that a second variation was indeed planned. Anyway, getting back on track here, his idle stance is again taken from Ratchet, just like the Omnibot Scout, and he also shares several movement animations with other characters too. For now, let's look him over. Starting up with the head, he does seem to be lacking some red on the sides of his forehead in comparison to concept art, but overall, there aren't too many differences here. He does, though, have a real stubborn mesh on the left side of his head that tends to like to disappear when not in direct view, but otherwise not much of note to mention for the head. Continuing down to the chest, there are a couple standout distinctions. First off, the black used for his striping is much darker here compared to the concept art, which really just looks like a much darker orange. And in addition to that, he was originally meant to have an Autobot insignia on the center of his chest, but that feature seems to have been excluded from the final design for some reason. Moving around to the back, the deco seems to be pretty faithful to the concept art, though the center of the back seems to have been substantially simplified compared to the concept art, which had quite a bit more detailing included there. Continuing on to the shoulders, they are made entirely from the front fenders, with the front wheels tucked away inside, and a lean black stripe running down the outer side, all of which are consistent with the original concept art. Proceeding on to the arms, they seem to have received some slight tweaks in comparison to concept art. The armor with the black stripe seems to have been made into one concisive piece, as opposed to a free-segmented one. Additionally, his hands have been somewhat redesigned as well. The handguard seems to have been somewhat extended, with some additional silver detailing and a black line near the front edge, compared to the simple flat red guard seen in concept art. I also want to go on a brief tangent here and say that this bot has the stubbiest little fingers on a Transformer I've ever seen. Seriously, he can barely even close a fist without it looking improper. Guy must have skipped finger day. Anyway, continuing down to the hips, the deco and design seem to be pretty on par with the concept art, and there's no noticeable problems that I can spot, so we'll just keep working our way down. Moving on to the thighs, the thigh armor has a small black line with an Autobot insignia dotting the side, along with some horribly abrupt UV seams, especially on the back of its lower thigh. Ugh. Seriously, I don't know how something this bad and abrupt got through to the final game, but this is real nasty. And closing it off with his knees and feet, the deco and design for both seem to have been recreated quite faithfully, and there doesn't seem to be any noticeable bugs nor distinguishing marks to cover. So I think that'll wrap up the visual analysis, and we can proceed straight on to gameplay.
Time to rumble.
Starting with the health, the Omnibot Warrior has a maximum value of 200 HP, making him a slightly tougher target compared to the Scouts. When it comes to movements, the Warrior can perform the majority of these standard movements. He can walk, which uses Bumblebee's walking animation. Run, with what I believe to be Ratchet's running animation. Jump. No jump slam, much like the Scout. Though, he can climb. But, still like the Scout, leaves no marks while doing so. As far as his in-game behavior goes, where the Scout prefers to keep some distance between him and his opponent, the Omnibot Warrior will often maintain close proximity to his, as his weapons are far more suitable for a closer range. That said, he's not so stupid enough as to just stand there and let himself get hit if an enemy starts getting right up in his face. So, he'll always try to keep a healthy but effective distance between him and his enemy. Speaking of ranged weapons, the Omnibot Warrior shares the same weapon model with the Omnibot Scout, a straight duplicate of Longhaul's primary weapon, which again forms over his right hand. For the actual weapons themselves, the Warrior first has his primary assault cannon, a subpar weapon with mediocre range, that actually uses firing sounds from Transformers the Game Scorponok's missiles, does about 7 damage per shot, and can fire 9 continuous shots before overheating. For his secondary weapon, he has the Flame Shot Shotgun, an obvious close-range weapon with sounds naturally taken from Ironhide's primary weapon, that does around 20 damage per shot, and can fire 3 continuous shots before overheating. While in weapon mode, he can of course dodge in all 4 directions, although unlike the Scout, the Warrior actually makes use of the roll animations, which is always a nice change of pace. He again seems to have no noticeable special ability, despite having audio cues for it if you were to try and use it.
Let's give him something special.
For melee, he can perform only a slow single punch that again only does 35 damage per hit. He has no additional melee attacks to mention, but he can toss ambient cars at his opponent if he so desires. Well, that's a wrap on the Warrior's robot mode. Let's shift down into vehicle mode. Omnibot Warrior, transform! Here we have the Omnibot Warrior's car form, what can best be described as a combination of the 1968 and 1969 Dodge Charger, having completely unique sound effects for his transformation, and seems to have completely unique sound effects for his engine as well. The vehicle is primarily orange with some wide black stripes on the roof and hood, and a sleek lean stripe running down the sides. And aside from the black being substantially darker on the final texture, the deco seems virtually spot on to the concept art. So not much was changed on that front, but there are still some noteworthy modifications made to avoid licensing issues. First of all, the majority of the design seems to most closely resemble that of the '69 Dodge Charger, as that appears to be the first instance of the rectangular lights being used on the sides of the car, at least from what I could find. The grille, however, seems to more closely resemble the '68 Charger, just with an angular slope added to the center of the grille instead of it being just a standard straight grille. Additionally, the Warrior car uses the same rectangular lights below the bumper compared to the round one seen on the '69 Charger. His bumpers are also incredibly shiny, especially for being a car this beat up. One of the highlights of the Warrior's old form, of course, has to be the supercharger in the hood of the vehicle. Similar to what Lockdown had in the animated series, this mechanism provides more power to an engine, basically supercharging it. Either way, I can't help but be reminded of animated Lockdown whenever I see this on another Transformer. Continuing on to the wheels, they are especially shiny, just like the front and rear bumpers, with a red outline just outside the hubcap, similar to the Omnibot Scouts. Moving up to the roof, the Warrior actually has one standout bug that you've likely never noticed. The left section of its window louvers seem to have their normal setup wrong. You can tell that by how off the shading is compared to the rest of them. Not sure exactly what caused this issue to occur, but considering you almost never see his alt mode from the back, no one is ever likely to really notice this. Checking back at the rear, the bulk of the changes seem to have taken place here. The taillights have first of all been segmented vertically, as opposed to horizontally, as seen on the '69 Charger. There are two mini lights and an Autobot insignia dotting the center, whereas the Charger logo would originally be present. And I also want to address how the Omnibot Warrior has some of the worst UV seams I've ever seen on a vehicle mode, especially on the bottom and front corners of the vehicle. Seriously, it doesn't even look like an attempt was even made here. Like, at all. I know we don't get a good look at the vehicle in general, let alone the back, but having texture seams this bad just boils my oil. Looking inside, the interior is far less detailed compared to the Scout, with no noticeable interior details. No chairs, no steering wheel, nothing. But since you're never meant to actually see inside him to begin with, it's not that huge of a deal. When it comes to the functionality of the vehicle, he performs much like the Scout. He has a standard speed of 78 miles per hour, though he strangely seems to drive with a constant skid sound. Not sure what that's about. With Nitro, he can hit up to 96 miles per hour. He can power slide. His vehicle weapon behaves exactly like the Scout's, again sharing Bumblebee's vehicle firing sound, doing 4 damage per shot, and being able to be fired 40 times before needing to cool down. And of course, he can also reverse. When it comes to advanced maneuvers, he has the same qualities as the Scout. He can perform only an advanced jump. The advanced melee just instantly hooks him back to robot mode, and the advanced ground pound only partially works with only the initial animation working, and the end result being him getting stuck in a freefall animation, just like the Scout. Taking a deeper look at his transformations, the Warrior has his own unique standard transformation, which is sort of just a duck down, nothing too special. And he also has his run transformation that starts off with this snazzy double flip, which is just really darn cool. And again, seems to be uniquely designed just for him. And that's all I've got for the Omnibot Warrior. It is now time to test him in battle. Will this war-hardened chassis be able to deal more damage than the Scouts? Or is his title of Warrior overstated? Time to find out.
You are no match for me.
Let's roll!
Got the target in sight.
See ya, Soundwave. Yep, you leave my bot buddy alone. Going down, punk. Get him. No. Come on. Ate my gun. Come on. Okay, rough start, but that's fine. Let's go again. Okay, round 2. I'm going for the high ground. Let's see Soundwave get me from here.
We're making for the roof, people.
Hey, Soundwave. Oh, they're all dead already? Dang. Come on up, Soundwave. Come on up. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Boom. 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 Get away from me. Nice toss. No. Oh, dang it. He got me again. This guy's not doing a good job. Okay, round 3. There's a different approach that works better. Try and get them together with my bot buddies.
Engaging Decepticon.
Come on. No! Leave my bot buddy alone. No rumble. No! Dang it, Soundwave! Come on. No! Oh, dang! This guy sucks! Ugh. Alright, let's do one more round. See if we can get at least one win here. Alright, come on, Soundwave. Get blasted.
Decepticon. Out.
Come on. Come on. Oh, crap! Oh, brother, this guy stinks! Well, it seems that the title of Warrior is a big fat lie. So far, the red-white Omni is the toughest guy in the group. Warrior, despite having more health, seemed to go down even faster than the Scout did. That's an interesting twist. Alright, well, that closes off the Omnibots. It's time to go on the defensive side and check out the Protectobots. Starting off the Protectobot parade, we have the Protectobot Scout. One of the only AI characters to feature their own arrival sequence, the Protectobot Scouts are your most common enemy type in the game, first appearing at the second set of Shanghai missions, and appearing more frequently as you progress through the campaign. This is one of the more fully functional AI characters in the game on account of them being playable in both multiplayer and campaign via a cheat code. That being said, they are by no means the exact same character, and will make things interesting by making some quick comparisons between the AI version and the actual playable version. So, the Protectobot Scout naturally pays homage to the original Gen 1 Streetwise, and shares the majority of its animations and sounds with Bumblebee. Visually, he follows the same deco of that of his concept art pretty accurately. The main distinction being that the game textures are substantially dirtier and slightly yellower compared to the crisp, clean white seen in the concept art. There are also some more subtle deviations that I'll address as we give him a thorough assessment here. Starting up with the head, it is primarily blue, with several gray streaks lining the inner edges, and a small mouthguard securing his face, which honestly kind of makes him look a bit unhinged if you look at him for too long. Proceeding down to the chest, the deco is primarily gray, with some blue portions lining the center and rear sides of the armor. It's also got an Autobot insignia in the center of his chest, as well as a bonus red light underneath his right headlight. Interestingly though, his siren colors are actually reversed with what you see in the artwork. The blue is meant to be on the left, and the red is meant to be on the right. No idea how that got messed up, but it's starting to trigger me. Also, the blue siren actually has some duplicated vertices on the entire front lining that hang slightly off the main mesh. Must have been an oversight that accidentally got left behind. Switching around to the back, there isn't much to write home about here. A couple small blue armor sections on the back of the doors, and several larger sections covering the back itself. A little bit of trivia for this section though. According to the concept art, there were originally plans to include a large 56 decal on the back armor. The 56 actually being a reference to Ken Christensen's high school football number. Now obviously, this detail never made it into the final game as we know it. However, the texture for it does still exist in the game itself, and can even be spotted in some early promo screenshots for the game. I'm not sure why it was ultimately cut. Maybe it would have been a bit too repetitive to see a bunch of scouts that all had the same number on the back. I can only speculate on the matter. The shoulders are kind of difficult to get a decent glimpse of because of how small they are, but they are primarily built around his wheel, with some small sections of armor surrounding the front and back. Overall, nothing of significance to focus on. The arms are made primarily from his side doors, and even contain trace lettering from his police decal seen in alt mode. And while the placement of the lettering does differ slightly from what is seen in concept art, it isn't anything too distracting to get caught up in. Interestingly though, he seems to have received a few slight changes to his fingers. While the concept art has the standard forefinger and thumb, the game model only has 3, that all share the same blue-white armor pattern. Whereas the concept art has the index and pinky finger as fully white, and the middle and ring finger blue. I can only speculate this change was made to make the Scout compatible with Bumblebee's rig, as he too only has 3 fingers and a thumb. The red and blue bumper bar lights can be found just above the hips, and there are just a couple simple sections of gray armor lining the back. Otherwise, nothing else significant stands out here. Moving down to the thighs, the deco again matches up with the concept art quite accurately, with both the blue on the outer edges and the entirety of the rear armor being blue as well. The knees again follow the concept art pretty darn well, and there are no particular problems that I can detect, so we'll continue on. Finally, closing off at the feet, he has the appropriate taillight details on the outer toes, though according to the concept art, he seems to be missing the Dial 911 emergency text on his left foot. There seems to be no reference to this decal in his robot textures, so I'm not entirely sure why this detail was omitted. The design on the back of the feet, though, seems to line up with everything seen in concept art perfectly, so I don't think there's anything else of significance to mention for this bot. Well, that about puts the cuffs on the visual analysis. Let's bounce on over to gameplay. Starting with the health, the Protectobot Scout has a maximum value of 225, though some in earlier missions are much weaker, whereas the MP Scout has a maximum health of 320, no doubt to give him more of a fighting chance in multiplayer. When it comes to movements, the Protectobot Scout can perform every single maneuver. He can walk, he can run, he can jump, jump slam, which does 60 damage, and he can of course climb, all of which will use the same animations as Bumblebee. As far as his actual in-game behavior goes, the Protectobot Scout has a pretty predictable attack pattern. He will typically find a nearby position, fire his primary weapon until it runs out, switch to his heavy weapon, and remain there until repeating the cycle unless interrupted by movement or damage. However, despite being able to be dispatched from a distance with utter ease, the Scout is by far the most formidable foe in regards to close combat, as unlike the majority of the AI, the Protectobot Scout can actually perform a full free melee combo, and if you get too close to him and you don't make the first hit, you'll likely find yourself on the receiving end of a flurry of blows. That's all to mention for his movements. Let's transition over to his combat capabilities, starting with his ranged weapons. The Protectobot Scout wields dual pistols that he holds directly in his hands. These are the same gun models that are used for Sideswipe in the DLC. For the actual weapons themselves, the Scout first has his primary dual SMG, a rapid-fire machine gun which actually has some pretty decent range, does about 2 damage per shot, and can fire 20 continuous shots before overheating. For his secondary weapon, he has the dual rockets that fire 2 rockets at once, overheat instantly upon firing, and do 15 damage per rocket. It is easily one of the weakest weapons in the game on account of how slow the projectiles fire and how easy it is to avoid. And while in weapon mode, the Scout can naturally dash in all 4 directions, and is actually able to cover some pretty good distance with it. Comparing that to the MP version, which has a completely different take on the primary weapon that fires a spread of 4 bullets at once, doing 30 damage per shot, and can be fired a total of 15 times before needing to cool down. The secondary weapon fires a volley of 6 rockets at once, instead of 2, doing 36 damage per rocket, resulting in a maximum damage of 216, being the polar opposite of the AI's rockets, resulting in it being one of the more formidable weapons in the game. When it comes to special abilities, the AI Scout does not seem to have an active one, though both his voice lines and ability notification confirms he was meant to use the Strobe Pulse ability.
Now you see me, now you don't.
As seen on the multiplayer character, which blinds nearby enemies with a flashbang-like effect. For melee, he is one of the only AI characters who can perform a full-fledged free melee combo. It does 30 for the first hit, 30 again for the second, and 40 for the final hit, resulting in a total maximum damage of 100. The Protectobot Scout is also one of the few characters to have his own charged attack that does 70 damage per hit, though its range leaves much to be desired. And of course, like the others, he can toss ambient cars. And that's all I've got for robot mode. Let's duck down and assess vehicle mode. Protectobot Scout, transform! And here we have the Protectobot Scout's car form, a slightly modified take on a mid-2000s Dodge Charger, most likely around 2006 if I had to guess. The vehicle is primarily gray, with a large blue stripe running all the way around the vehicle, with a smaller darker stripe inside, mirroring the deco seen on the concept art pretty much perfectly. Sans a few slight decal differences that I'll point out as we run through them here. Starting at the front, there is a small dark gray Autobot insignia guarding the center, taking the place of the source car's Dodge logo. The grille section has been substantially modified from the original quadrant design to a solid straight vented design. The headlights, while the same basic shape as the source car, has one single main headlight as opposed to the two round lights seen on the Charger. And there is a distinctive red light beneath the right light, in contrast to the blue light seen on the left. The fog lights have also been redesigned from a round shape to a square shape. Additionally, the front is equipped with a dark bumper bar, with a red and blue light in the middle, and a 56K decal on the left side, a feature and design that is consistent with the concept art. The wheels generally follow the design of the concept art, though the tread is substantially darker in the artwork and brighter in-game. The hubcaps have the appropriate Autobot insignia and brighter interior, and all in all appear fairly accurate. Checking out the sides, we have the obvious police logo, lining the sides of the doors, and an additional Protect and Serve decal that they surprisingly went as far as to unmirror for the right side. Granted, they could have just made a decal texture for it and saved them some trouble, but oh well. The lower left side, though, is noticeably missing the 56K decal that was seen in concept art. Not sure why they decided to cut it. Perhaps they thought the one on the bumper bar was just adequate enough. Who knows. Moving up to the roof, he has his half-blue, half-red siren, which, interestingly though, again seems to be swapped compared to the concept art, just like what we saw in robot mode. Yeah, that's really starting to bug me now. Moving to the rear of the vehicle, the taillight shape is, again, quite similar to the actual Charger, but has had the inner details adjusted to remove the two red circular lights seen inside. The rear trunk has an Autobot insignia, again taking the place of the Dodge logo, but the keyhole seen on the trunk is still present. There is an AB Scout license plate that looks like it was taken straight off the concept art, and the only other distinction I can notice is the lack of the Dial 911 emergency text seen at the right side of the trunk. Taking a quick glimpse inside, the interior is quite barren, with no interior detailing of any kind. No chairs, no steering wheel, nothing. It's interesting that some characters get interior detailing and others don't. It is also worth mentioning that a lot of the texture points on this guy's texture go unused. He's got a lot of tan sections on his texture map that don't go used at all. So I'm wondering if he was originally designed to actually get some decent interior work and he just decided not to. I'm not sure, but a lot of that stuff not texture map goes unused. But, all in all, the design is pretty faithful to the concept art. That's all I can rev about for the visual analysis. Let's talk functionality. Generally, the Protectobot Scout vehicle follows the standard vehicle gameplay, with one exception being that his camera position is slightly higher and further back compared to the MP version, making him feel a lot more sluggish, but the in-game speed data does seem to be consistent with the MP version. Getting into specifics, he could drive with the standard maximum speed of 78 miles per hour, boost, which gets him up to 96 miles per hour, power slide, reverse, and his vehicle weapons do 4 damage per shot and can be fired up to 20 times before overheating. When it comes to advanced maneuvers, he can perform all 3, again sharing all of Bumblebee's animations. The advanced jump, the advanced melee attack, which does 90 damage, and the advanced ground pound, which does the standard 100 damage. Additionally, when it comes to transformations in general, he has the standard stationary transformation, the forward run transformation, and the swift reverse transformation, probably being one of the only AI characters that retains this transformation. And that closes the bars in the Protectobot Scout's analysis. It's time to give him a proper field test and see if he has what it takes to protect and serve the human race. Let's do it. Alright, going up against Soundwave again. Let's see what this little bot could do.
Engaging Decepticon threat.
Let's pull him in. Come on, get me. Oh, I'm gonna ambush him. Get melee! Oh no, Rumble. I'll get ya! Come on, come on. Oh, he got me. Alright, not a great start. Okay, let's give it another go. Let's try the high ground. Yeah, forget it. I want down. I see you, Soundwave. Oh, I'm slow. Ooh. Good distance though, don't I? Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Oh, destroyed Rumble. No, I'm slow. Oh, cheater. Ah. Okay, third time's the charm. Let's go this way.
Decepticon target confirmed.
Don't get me. I'm gonna pepper you with this. Take this. Oh, scrap. Yeah. Nah. You'll never find me. Yeah. Where's it coming from? No. No. Time for some melee action. Start. No. Oh, yeah. Taste that, Soundwave. Alright. Not bad. Okay, one last round. Let's just stick to full-on melee attacks here. Maybe just a little bit of damage on him. Yeah. Oh, here he comes. Alright, I'm ready for you. Feel this. Come back here. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, how's that sound? Yeah. Oh, alright. That's that for you. What the heck? What's going on over here? Oh, his guns didn't form all the way back in. I did not notice that. Well, there's a bug for you. Yeah, all in all, the Scout is not great at long range, but up close, he is quite the force to be reckoned with. So stay away from him, you'll be fine. Or at least make the first hit. Okay, that's all I've got for the Scout. Let's scurry on off to our next Protectobot. Propelling forward onto our next Protectobot, we have the Protectobot Sniper. Another one of the more common enemies in the game, the Protectobot Sniper first appears in the second Shanghai construction mission, going viral, and pretty much becomes a consistent threat thereafter. Visually, the Protectobot Sniper takes inspiration from the original G1 Blades character, and has his own unique rig that is shared with his Combaticon antithesis, but obviously shares some key animations with Bumblebee. I should also mention that the Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Blazemaster seems to have been based upon this design. Like the Scout, the Sniper's deco generally follows what is seen in concept art, but again appears much dirtier and is tinted slightly yellow compared to the pure white deco seen in the artwork. Still, we shall examine him closely and see if any other differences whirl our way. Starting up with the head, the Sniper has what has to be one of my favorite head designs in the game. It's got two sets of antennas lining the top and bottom of the sides of the head, and has several face shields guarding the front and top, with a blue crest lining the top center, all of which appear consistent with concept art. Proceeding down to the chest, the front armor is made from the nose of the copter, with some fainter blue windows up above. He's striking the signature police decal that is split in half, following what you will see in helicopter mode. Interestingly though, the white under armor seems to have been a completely new addition compared to the concept art, which had no such piece present. Anyway, moving on. Higher up, he has his tail rotors sections as bat kibble, which have a few minor deviations. First off, it seems that the protruding section on the inner sides was originally designed to resemble circuitry, compared to another simple blue section we have here. There has also been a change to his decals. Instead of the dial 911 emergency text, it has been changed to Protectobot Emergency. Not entirely sure what prompted this change, but it's kind of cheesy if you ask me. The back of the tail rotors also seem to have the inner side panels moved to the rear of the tail rotors, though this might honestly just be a concept anomaly since it's properly placed on the front view, and it wouldn't be the first time a deviation like this occurs in the art itself. Moving around to the lower back, the armor is again primarily blue, and at his lower sides are the copter's side doors that have additional police decals lining them. And while the orientation of the text does seem to differ slightly with what is indicated in concept art, it appears accurate enough. Moving back up to the clavicle region, the Sniper has the blue and red Simon at the top sides, and he has his distinctive armor pad that's primarily blue, with a darker stream flowing around the outer edges, with another Protect and Serve decal lining the center of the pad. After looking at it though, part of me is wondering if this pad was meant to be rigged alongside the actual shoulders, but at the same time, if you compare it to its position in the concept art, the arms are down while the pad remains unmoved, so maybe I'm just looking too much into things here. Moving on to the actual shoulders, there isn't much of note to address here. The only change that actually stands out is that the bottom front white armor appears as uncolored circuitry in the concept art. The back, however, appears accurate, containing the appropriate single section of white armor, so overall, nothing too off here. The arms don his rotor blades up top, but it seems his finger number has been reduced to 3 compared to the 4 seen in concept art, most likely to make him compatible with the Decepticon Sniper's rig. Switching round to the back, the armor seems to have been somewhat redesigned from what you see in the artwork, with there being a few additional sections of armor in the back, but otherwise nothing sticks out too much. Proceeding down to the hips, we actually have our first real issue with this guy. Behind his main front hip armor, next to his thighs is a solid black section that was originally intended to be another piece of white armor, but is lacking any diffuse or spec detailing for it. There are still traces of this piece on his normal map though. Otherwise, everything else here seems to be in order. Moving on to the thighs, the design in deco is pretty on point with the artwork, though the rear white panel sections have some pretty nasty UV seams. Seems they could have done a better job at cleaning those up back there. The knees likewise follow the concept art pretty closely, with the horizontal stabilizers lining the outer sides, but there are some distinct deviations on the back. First, and most obvious of all, is the lack of any 0121B ID decals on the lower armor. There seems to never have been any texture made for this tag in robot mode, nor in vehicle mode. Tapping out at the feet, there are a couple other issues that stand out. First, the design of the central foot armor appears slightly wider on the game model compared to what you see in concept art. There is also a small inner toe that has some misaligned UVs that are for some reason assigned to an area between his head and a blank space on the texture. Not sure what happened there. And finally, we have an armor section on the back of the foot that appears blue in-game, but appears white in concept art. I know, real shocker there. So, something went quite afoot here. And that's all I have for the visual view. Let's whirl on over to gameplay.
Copy that.
Starting again with the health, the Protectobot Sniper has a maximum health of 250, making him only slightly stronger than the Scout. For movements, the Sniper can perform most of the basics. He can walk, run, which I believe is reusing Ratchet's animation, jump, no jump slam, naturally, and can climb, but again, leaves no trace of damage while doing so. When it comes to his in-game behavior, the Sniper will fly to an elevated point in the distance and open fire with his primary sniper weapon. He will remain in this spot unless damaged, his target changes position, or an enemy gets too close. If an enemy does get too close, he will first switch to his secondary weapon and do what damage he can, then dish out a quick hit to give himself a chance to retreat to a new position and repeat the whole cycle. In general though, this is not a very difficult foe to evade or destroy. Now, let's move on to weapons. The Protectobot Sniper is one of the few characters to actually have no in-game weapon model, despite having one in some early concept art. A ridiculous long gun, no doubt meant to indicate a powerful long-range weapon. Instead though, he simply fires out of his engine holes on his arms. What's interesting though, is that this weapon model is in fact seen on a Protectobot promotional image, and even has unused textures in the game's files. Whether or not this model also still resides in the game's files somewhere remains unknown. Speaking of the actual weapons themselves, for his primary weapon he has the Missile Sniper, which reuses blast sounds from the Seeker's missiles, fires an auto-lock missile that does 45 damage per shot, and can only be fired once before having to cool down, making it a trivial weapon to avoid. For the secondary weapon, the Sniper has the Photon Pistol, a slow far-range weapon that shares its blast sound with Sideways' Slug Repeater, does around 20 damage per hit, can be fired only 4 times before overheating, and, interestingly enough, reuses the Valiant Leader sounds for its overheat noise. And while in weapon mode, he can naturally roll in all 4 directions. In regards to an ability, the Sniper has none, despite sharing the same lines as the Protectobot Scout when activated.
Activating cloak.
For melee, the Sniper can perform only a slow single punch that does 35 damage per hit, with no charged attack nor additional melee combos to address. Well, that's all for the robot mode. Let's take flight into vehicle mode. Protectobot Sniper, transform! And here we have the Protectobot Sniper's helicopter mode. From what I've read, this helicopter was a combination of 2 unique helicopters. The base body of the helicopter seems to most closely resemble the MD-902 Explorer, with a tail that seems to come from a Eurocopter AS-365 Dolphin. Granted, that is just based upon a preliminary search, but I'm pretty confident with my findings, as the helicopter was originally designed to have a jet-propelled tail, which the MD-902 also has. In fact, the entire Protectobot deco even seems to take some inspiration from the Hungarian police chopper, which is also an MD-902. Cool, huh? Visually, this is a really solid-looking chopper. Like the Scout, the Sniper's art mode features a distinctive gray-blue deco that this time is almost entirely blue, with just some small sections of gray lining the rear lower area. And based upon what I can tell with the helicopter's artwork, the deco seems to be on point with the concept art yet again. But there are, of course, a few minor deviations that again do stick out. We shall address those as we whirl on through him now. Starting on the nose, the bulk of the design is fairly similar to the Explorer, give or take a few slight adjustments to the lower windows. Comparing to the concept art, there are only some minor quirks. Both the details for a nose light and a 0121B decal near the bottom of the nose are missing. Fun fact, the designation 0121B is in reference to Ken's wife's birthday. Taking a quick glimpse at the bottom, we have the copter's skid landing gear, which design differs slightly from that of the Explorer from what I can tell, but matches the concept art design almost perfectly, with the only deviation being another absent 0121B decal on the rear fins. Other than that, not much else to mention. Moving topside, everything seems to line up with the concept art perfectly. We have the sirens, the Autobot insignia, that despite being completely illegible from here, somehow still manages to look completely accurate. Moving to a side angle, the details again look to be strikingly accurate with the concept art. Even the small tag near the rotors is fully included. The details do differ slightly with some of the grading, but the bulk of it looks solid. Taking a nice solid look at the full sides of the copter, every detail here looks as if it were taken straight off the concept art itself. The police decals seem to line up just about perfectly with the artwork. He's got all the other details as well, the red-blue side lights, the protecting serve decal, and the black latch on the bottom. Really, the only noteworthy issue here is the lack of a dark blue stripe on the step of the copter. Otherwise, pretty solid job. One of the more defining differences, however, can be found just before the tail, and it's the inclusion of an extra rectangular protrusion that is not found anywhere on the actual Explorer. It is also worth noting that there was meant to be a 0121B decal on the lower right corner that is noticeably absent. Not sure exactly what this piece is or what its purpose is. If there are any copter experts out there, post what this is down in the comments. I'd be curious to know. Finally, closing it off with the tail, the copter is most obviously missing the 0121B, again at the start of the tail. He's also got his horizontal stabilizers, which shape and design match the source vehicle almost perfectly, and even have the same single blue stripe as indicated in concept art. Back at the tail rotors themselves, the only point of significance here is the deviation from Dial 911 emergency text to Protectobot emergency text, similar to what was seen in robot mode. I don't really get why they couldn't keep the decal here as it was, but oh well. And, taking a quick look inside, the interior is pretty bland, with no substantial interior detailing of any kind, so there's nothing more to focus on here. Well, that's all for the visual breakdown. Let's hover on over to gameplay. When it comes to the functionality of the vehicle, it's pretty much on point with what you can find with Grindor. He has a standard speed of 100 miles per hour, and with Nitro gets up to 145. He can ascend and descend. He can hover in place, straight from side to side. His vehicle weapons reuse Bumblebee's vehicle sounds, do 4 damage per hit, and can be fired 20 times continuously before having to cool down. In other words, pretty much a carbon copy of the Omnibot Scout's vehicle weapon. When it comes to advanced maneuvers, the Sniper sadly has none. Not even a hover maneuver. Well, that's all for the Protectobot Sniper's analysis. I think it is now time we give him an appropriate test and propel him into battle.
Here's where the tide turns.
Okay, this time around I've brought in Starscream, since his alt mode actually works, and should prove for a much more interesting encounter. Alright, Sniper, let's snipe him. Yeah, I'm out of here. Ow. Where'd he go? What you doing down there, boy?
I've almost got a shot. Hurry!
Gotta move again. Come and catch me, Screamer. Where is he? Donk. Ah! Ew. Ah. Dang it! That's a stubborn weapon. Oh! Moving again. Now! How did you score that? Moving again. Oh!
I'm taking hits. Back up requested.
Where are ya? Where are ya? Yeah. This thing sucks. I'll cut him out.
Stop shooting me!
Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm not gonna last much longer. I can't go there, really? I went up here. Let me go. Now.
Another Autobot defeated by Starscream.
Okay, not a great start. Let's go again. Okay, round 2.
I got a lock on Starscream. Destroy the Autobots!
We're moving. Ooh. Where'd you go? Oh, I see ya. Ooh. Screamer. Stinks. Must be having some AI problems. Well, I will take advantage of this. Fall! Screamer! Fall! Darn it! Die!
Please, Starscream is down. That wasn't so hard.
Let's give it another go. Okay, round 3. Oh, whoa there.
Decepticon threat. Responding.
I'm out of here. That kind of works. Pow. Boom.
Decepticon target
Boom.
confirmed.
Take this. Nope, I'm leaving. You're gonna have to chase me. Come on, get it. Come on. No. Bye-bye. That seems to be actually paying off. Dang it. Ooh. Where you going, Screamer? Oh, no. What you doing? Ah! No, 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 no. High ground. Stuck. This isn't very fair. Who cares? Dang it! Hate this thing. Pop. Die. Screamer. Come on, cool down. I'm going for it. Oh, one swipe and he's down. Okay, seems he has some potential, but let's keep testing to see just how much potential he has. Okay, Starscream, last round. Pop, 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 pop. No, oh, what? That was a miss. Pop. Boop. Pop. Pop.
Suspect confirmed as Decepticon.
Dang, this gun sucks. Nope. Moving again.
Destroy the Autobots!
Hold still! Get! Oh no, I'm out of here.
Taking round!
Oh, I'm not gonna survive much longer. Oh. Boom. What? No! No! Get off my back! You're chasing me, are you? No! Ah! Oh! Ugh. Okay, well, I think we can say he has some potential, but not much. His weapons as they are just aren't very good. That rocket so easily misses its target. If that thing did a bit more damage, he'd be more of a threat. Yeah, this guy's not very tough. Well, we've got one more Protectobot to go, so let's press on and present him. Plowing off our Protectobot parade, we have the Protectobot Warrior. The toughest of all the Autobot enemies in the game, the Protectobot Warrior first appears near the end of the first West Coast oil refinery mission, Find the Female, and becomes a recurring foe in pretty much every mission thereafter. Visually, the Protectobot Warrior, like his two companions, takes inspiration from his original G1 counterpart, in this case, Hotspot. And he also follows his game concept art pretty well, though the in-game deco is much dirtier and yellower compared to his squeaky clean concept deco. Like his sniper compatriot, the Protectobot Warrior shares a rig and the majority of his animations with his Combaticon antithesis. Unfortunately, he did not translate as well over to his rig as the sniper did. He has several disjointed parts and quite a few areas that don't move the way they should. We'll cover that and more as we run down him now. Starting up with the head, the Protectobot Warrior has a simple head design that is primarily gray with a blue stripe running down the center, details that are consistent with the concept art. And if you were to move around to the back, the details again match up with the concept art perfectly, with two stripes lining the sides of the head and another running down the center again. So far so good, let's see what else is ahead. Continuing down to the chest, the overall deco and design appears to be fairly consistent with the concept art. However, there are a few notable distinctions that do stand out. Firstly, there is supposed to be an emergency text decal on the lower right section of the chest, but for some reason, nothing shows up in-game. I have the ripped mesh directly from in-game itself, so I know it exists, but for some reason, I cannot find any trace of it on the model itself. It would seem the UVs are using a different UV map, which results in them not displaying any specific text. And incidentally, the concept art has the decal as 44L and not emergency. There also seems to have been another 44L intended to appear on the upper left clavicle armor as well, but for some reason no text was included in this particular spot. Moving round to the back, the design and deco again appear accurate to what is seen in concept art, with no abnormal anomalies to address. Moving up to the shoulders are where things start to break apart. First, there seems to be a slight orientation change to how the shoulders are positioned. If you refer to the concept art, the armor and the sirens are positioned straight on the top of the shoulder, but in-game they are angled more to the side. I can only guess that this was done in relation to making his rig compatible with the Decepticon Warrior's rig, as the parts all appear correct in T-pose, but deviate substantially from what you see on the artwork. That also isn't his only issue for this part. There is a small rectangular section of armor that is assigned to the shoulder bone where it should have been assigned to the arm bone, and as such makes that particular section appear to float. And on a much lesser note, there was originally meant to be a small stream of blue on the top roof armor just below the siren, but in-game this section is fully gray. Continuing down to the arms, he seems to have gone through quite a few adjustments compared to his concept art, both for design and deco. First of all, it seems that the overall orientation of the part has been somewhat adjusted, like the shoulders. In the concept art, the arm is angled in such a way in which you could see the inner wheel from the front, but on the final model, it seems to be angled in such a way that the wheel is seen mainly from the side. There also seems to be a few areas of armor that have been completely changed altogether. There was originally a blue section above the darker L shape, which was originally colored white by the way, that is noticeably absent on the final game model, and in fact, comparing them more closely, it seems as if his arms were originally meant to be slightly asymmetrical, mainly revolving around that same absent blue piece I just mentioned, which appears much more angled compared to that previous piece. It's also worth mentioning that the Warrior is one of the only characters in the game to have his weapon permanently attached to his arm while not in use. Granted, the weapon actually appears on his left arm in the concept art, but we'll focus more on the weapon later during the gameplay portion of the video. At the hands, we have a couple more problems to present. First, his two fingers don't move as tightly as they should. This is no doubt due to sharing the Decepticon Warrior's rig, and evidently even a section of his thumb is rigged to move alongside his hand instead of his actual thumb. Yeah, this guy's got a lot of sections that aren't rigged to the right bone. Down at the hips, the deco seems to be on target with the concept art, striking the half-white, half-blue section at the center. However, these specific sections are not rigged properly, and instead of moving with his hips, they instead move with his chest. Meaning, they'll move along with where you aim, and will even shift when switching weapons. Yeah, this is easily the most broken character on the bot side. Checking the back, though, I absolutely have to highlight the two emergency boxes imitating this guy's butt. Dude's got junk in the trunk that is literally his trunk. I have to wonder if that was intentional. Had to be, right? Either way, this is one thick bot. The thighs look to follow the concept art quite accurately. All the proper pieces are present, and everything looks to be painted correctly as well. And this applies to the back too, with the only distinction I can spot being the lack of a small blue piece of armor up near the top, which is quite a minor modification in the grand scheme of things, but it must be mentioned. Proceeding to the knees, both the design and deco look pretty solid, both from the front and the back. Can't find anything of note here to mention. Finally, stomping down at the feet, the overall design and deco are again on target with the concept art. However, there are a couple interesting points to address. First, at the front of his left foot is an emergency decal at the top. According to concept art, this is actually an incomplete decal, and should instead read as Dial 911 Emergency. What's also interesting, though, is that there does seem to be space in the UV map and texture for this text. I'm honestly wondering if there was some sort of legal requirement that forced this to be changed, as the Sniper had the same problem, and it legit doesn't make sense not to include this. Anyway, moving to the back of the feet, there are a couple more points to ponder. The rear left toe has another emergency decal that should again be displayed as Dial 911 Emergency, but for some reason, that was not included. On a similar note, on the same section on the opposite foot, there should be a 44L decal that is also noticeably absent. Now, here's where things get interesting. In ripping the model with the standard edition of Ninja Ripper, there is no indication of a mesh for this decal. However, when ripping the model with Ninja Ripper 2, there does indeed seem to be an indication of an empty mesh specifically for this decal. I would bet that this mesh was just never assigned a proper material, and as such, never shows up properly in-game. However, since there is no 44L on the texture map to begin with, it probably would not have shown up regardless. Alright, that's a wrap on the Warrior's visual analysis. Let's march on to gameplay.
Pursue and destroy.
Starting with the health, the Protectobot Warrior has a maximum health of 550, naturally making him the toughest of the Protectobots and the toughest Autobot enemy in general. For basic movements, he can walk, He can run. Jump. No jump slam, however. Though, he can climb, but like many other characters, leaves no trace damage while doing so. When it comes to his basic behavior, the Warrior is all about maintaining a constant and close pursuit of his quarry. He will stick to his primary weapon when at a distance, and then quickly switch to his secondary flamethrower to keep a consistent heat on his Decepticon foe. Speaking of his ranged weapons, let's run through those now. The Protectobot Warrior, as I said earlier, is one of the only characters in the game to have his ranged weapon permanently fixed to his arm. And while the design has changed substantially from what is seen in concept art, the general basics of the design are all still there. Of course, a lot of that uniqueness is lost due to the weapon using the same materials as the majority of the other weapons in the game. Anyway, getting on to the actual ranged weapons themselves, the Warrior first has his primary machine gun weapon, which uses sounds from Bumblebee's vehicle weapon, does 4 damage per shot, and can be fired 17 times before needing to cool down. And for his secondary weapon, the Warrior has his Flamethrower, which does 12 damage per hit and can be fired non-stop without ever needing to cool down. Suffice to say, you do not want to be near this thing when it's hot. And while in weapon mode, he can of course dash in all 4 directions. Granted, he doesn't cover a whole lot of distance while doing so. When it comes to a special ability, the Warrior does not seem to have an active one, despite again having voice lines for them if you were to trigger the ability, like so many other characters we've seen up to this point.
Be advised, using deadly force.
For melee, he can perform only a slow single punch that does 35 damage per hit. And like the other AI, the Warrior also has no charged attack, but naturally can kick ambient cars towards his opposing adversaries. And that's all for the robot mode. Let's tank it down into vehicle mode. Protectobot Warrior, transform! And here we have the Protectobot Warrior's alt form, a modified version of a Lenco G2 Bearcat, who seems to share the majority of his engine sounds with Ironhide. This is easily one of the coolest looking vehicles in the entire game, and one of the coolest looking TF alt modes in general. It's almost criminal that you're never able to get a decent look at this thing. Anyway, following the design of his 2 compatriots, Protectobot Warrior's vehicle shares the same gray-blue styling, with the front being primarily gray and the blue completely engulfing the rear of the truck. Interestingly though, the design of this alt mode differs so much from its concept art, more so than I've ever seen for any character up to this point. We'll go through that and the other distinctions that have been made compared to the actual Lenco vehicle. Starting at the front, one of the most notable changes is that the hood section seems to have been substantially heightened compared to the concept art. Yeah, this entire section with the front vents and dual lights wasn't even in the concept art at all, and it isn't on the actual Lenco vehicle either. Additional differences with the Lenco vehicle include the headlight shape, which has been simplified to a simple square compared to the 2 round lights. The front grille section has been redesigned to be more solid compared to the more hole-like design of the original Bearcat. There was also a 44L decal that was meant to be under the right headlight, but it is noticeably absent here. Moving down to the front bumper, the general design is overall similar to the source vehicle, with the main difference being the inclusion of a wench on the center of the bumper, which, interestingly enough, seems to have had its orientation completely reversed compared to the concept art. So, quite a few interesting changes already. Taking a gander at the front windows, it seems that these, and all the other windows of the vehicle, have received some extra grading around them, a feature not present on the source vehicle, nor the concept one, and not even in robot mode either. Something must have gotten really changed up for this alt mode. Moving to a direct side view is where we find the majority of our distinctions. First and most obvious of all is the transition from a 4-wheeler to a 6-wheeler. This is a massive change, and comparing the 2 vehicles now, I'm just seeing how many more differences there are here. I have never seen such a dramatic shift from concept art to game model before. Things really did get changed up, and we're just getting started here. First off, there is some vent detailing at the front sides that are noticeably absent on both the concept artwork and the source vehicle. Then we have the door, which might just be the smallest door on a vehicle I've ever seen before. How on earth are people supposed to get out of this thing? The one in the concept art and the source vehicle both have an appropriate sized one, so what the heck happened here? The front fenders were also originally white, and seem to have been much taller than the game model. And the front mirrors were also placed much further down and weren't even located on the side doors at all. He does retain the same To Protect and Serve decal as seen on the other Protectobots, as well as the same police decal, though the position of this decal has been substantially moved to the right compared to the concept art, which has it directly in the center of the vehicle. I also just realized that the vehicle is completely missing the darker blue stripe we've seen on the other two Protectobots. How curious. Another substantial change can be found at the top right sides of the vehicle, with the addition of several armored protrusions around the free windows, compared to the flatter sections seen in the concept art and the actual source vehicle itself. It's also worth noting that these small circular protrusions were originally vertical rectangles on the Bearcat. Must have been a change to avoid licensing issues. As a quick aside, comparing the concept art with the source vehicle itself, they are much more consistent to what you see here. Like, if you were to compare the two directly, you could easily see the inspiration between them. With the actual game model, though, it is a lot more difficult to tell that this model is based upon the Bearcat. Taking a quick glimpse at the top, we have his sirens and turret, both of which seem to be on point with the concept art with all the appropriate decals and details, including the fire decals, the Autobot insignia on the center of the turret, and the napalm canisters on the back. Never heard of a SWAT truck being equipped with a built-in flamethrower before. Kind of overkill if you ask me. Closing off at the back, we still have quite a few more distinctions to drill through. The general design is fairly consistent with the artwork. The position of the taillights and the step deck are all consistent, but still, a couple points do stand out. First, the top corner lights have been changed from single to dual lights. But most interesting of all, though, is a complete lack of a police decal on the rear doors. It seems like the height of the rear doors was increased for one reason or another, and they threw this text here just to fill it out a bit more. Quite interesting. Speaking of decals, both the Protect and Serve and the Emergency decals are present, though the Dial 911 text is again missing, and there is also a 44L decal on the right that is also noticeably absent. And, taking a quick peek inside, the interior of the vehicle is actually one of the more detailed ones I've seen. The cab has 2 chairs and a steering wheel, which is pretty common interior detailing. But, if you were to check out the back of the truck, we've got an entire row of seats lining both sides of the vehicle. Despite deviating from the concept art and the source vehicle way more than I'd ever expect, it's pretty well detailed for what it is. Anyway, that's all for the visual drive-through. Let's truck on over to gameplay. When it comes to the functionality of the Warrior vehicle, he can drive at a standard speed of 74 miles per hour. And with Nitro, gets up to around 90. He can power slide. He has his own unique turret gun that fires much slower than you'd think it would, doing 10 damage per hit and can be fired only 7 times before overheating. And he can, of course, reverse. When it comes to advanced maneuvers, he can perform only the advanced jump. With the advanced melee attack, just popping him straight back to robot mode. And finally, the advanced ground pound, which results in him becoming a tiny, tight robo-ball.
Anyone want to see a Megatron scrap heap?
Additionally, he has the standard stationary transformation, and the forward running transformation. And that is a wrap on the Warrior. Time to put this guy to the test and dish out some heat on some Decepticon slag heaps. Okay, we got Soundwave again. Let's go get him.
Engaging enemy units!
Overheated. Yeah, come and get me. See what happens. Yeah, come here, get burned, Soundwave. Burn! Burn, dude! Burn!
Wounded here!
Oh.
Status deactivated. Confirmed. Target is toast.
Alright, not bad. Let's go another round. Okay, Soundwave, round 2. I'm coming straight for you. Yeah. Yeah, same deal. Come and get me. Hit ya. Burn! Oh, you think Rumble's gonna help? He's not.
Enemy unit taking
Burn,
damage.
Salad. Oh, yeah. Take it. Take it. Burn. Oh, got you again, sucker.
Oh yeah, he's done.
Alright, he's doing pretty good. Let's keep this going, though. Alright, Soundwave, let's go again. Let's bring him in over here. Come and get me.
All units, I am opening fire.
Oh,
Taking hits.
no. Burn. Oh, he got me. Dang. Okay, Soundwave, one last round.
All units, we got a bogey in now.
Taking heat. I'm supposed to glove that. Oh. Okay, well, I think we can call this a draw. He's not terrible, but he can get beaten down pretty quickly, so I don't know. It's a draw, I guess. If his weapon didn't overheat for such a long time, he wouldn't be so bad. But yeah, that overheat time, that's really gonna throw him off. Okay, well, he's not too bad. So with that done, we have presented all the Protectobots. We have but one set of Autobots left to address, and those are the Aerialbots. Let's soar on to them next. Closing off with our final arrangement of Autobots, we have the Aerialbots, starting with Aerialbot Scout 2. Another character to have their own arrival sequence, a sequence originally from the Decepticon Seeker, by the way. The Aerialbots are the rarest Autobot enemy type in the game, showing up in only 3 missions throughout the entire thing. The first of these being Deep 6, Rise of the Fallen, and only showing up again at the 2 East Coast Downtown missions. Like the Protectobot Scout, this is another one of the more fully functional AI characters in the game, on account of him being playable in multiplayer and then later being released in campaign as a DLC character. Also like the Protectobot though, that does not mean that he is one-to-one with his MP counterpart, and we'll touch on how they differ as we go through him. So the Aerialbot Scout 2's deco, as well as the entire Aerialbot design as a whole, takes inspiration from G1 Skydive, and shares an almost exact rig with the Decepticon Seeker. All the Aerialbots in the game have a deco inspired by a specific G1 Aerialbot in the show. Concept art for this and the other 2 decos can be found as extras in the unlockable section under the Autobot campaign. We shall compare the final deco with its artwork and see what differences, if any, do remain. Starting up at the head, we have another pretty solid head design. It's got a nice blend of white and dark gray armor scattered about, with a decent facial design that is coherent with what we see in concept art, and has no other special points to bring attention to. Continuing down to the chest, he has the distinct red chest armor, with the darker upper armor and yellow lightning bolt symbol on his chest, both accurate to concept art, though I wish they would at least try and color the interior sections of the armor to match. They kind of stick out a bit too much for my liking. Switching round to a rear view, the Aerialbot has a back section very much indicative of the G1 Aerialbots, with the nose, vertical and horizontal stabilizers all lining the back. He has a shiny blue cockpit up at the top, his vertical stabilizer donning his distinctive blue and yellow lightning bolt pattern, though there was no bot insignia included in the concept art, and his horizontal stabilizers that, while accurate with his robot concept art, should technically have some darker edging along the inner sides, but it is overall accurate enough. Up at his clavicle region, we have his wings that are dark gray with a yellow lightning bolt on the sides, though the underside of them was not painted to match, so that stinks. Strangely though, he has no Autobot insignia in the concept art, though he has one in vehicle mode, so I guess this is right in a way. Also, the missile on the top of the wing appears brighter compared to the one seen in artwork, which is much darker. A minor deviation, but one worth mentioning all the same. The shoulders are super simplistic, containing only a single section of armor up top, that has some awful blending issues by the way, and some interior sections that don't really seem to connect with the arms at all. Yeah, the more you look at it, the more off the whole shoulder section looks. It's almost as if the entire piece is missing, or perhaps something isn't positioned right. Heck, maybe it's even a result of sharing the Seeker's rig. Who knows? He has 2 missiles lining his arms that have a small red line circling around the center, and there's also something curious about his hand. He has a section of armor right between the end of his arm that almost makes it look as if it were meant to move along with his hand instead of his arm. It's difficult to tell exactly if this area was meant to move along with the hand or if something was simply misrigged. Suppose we're just left to ponder this one. Moving down to the hips, the design consists of 2 sections of red armor in the center, with 2 white panels to the side, and some darker panels on the outer sides below the thighs. From the back, the design seems fairly consistent, though the engine appears much too dark compared to the brighter copper color seen on the concept art, and as a bonus touch, there are two rear panels that have a couple of dark thicker lines not seen in concept art, but they add some nice depth to the area, so I can't complain. The thighs are nicely designed, with a nice collage of armor surrounding the inner circuitry, and some nice dark gray panels lining the center, that all seem to have been translated over from concept art perfectly. The knees, like the Omnibot Scouts, are made from two distinct parts, an upper and a lower knee, the design of which seems accurate enough compared to concept art, with nothing too significant standing out. The feet feature two armored toes, with several additional sections of armor scattered about. From the back, he has a couple yellow knobs and rods, as seen in the artwork, though the design of the foot does seem somewhat simplified compared to the artwork. Nothing that I could exactly pinpoint, but again, it isn't anything too distracting to get caught up in. Well, that's all for the Aerial's visual assessment. Let's air on over to gameplay.
Here's where the fun begins.
Starting with health, Aerialbot Scout 2 has a maximum health value of 325, comparing to that of the MP/DLC variant, which has 320, making him only slightly weaker. Regarding movements, Aerialbot can perform every maneuver. He can walk, run, jump, jump slam, which does 60 damage, and climb, this time actually leaving some damage residue as he moves. When it comes to his basic gameplay behavior, the Aerialbot will almost always seek an overhead hover position to rain down fire on his enemy. He will never retreat, and no matter how close you get to him, he will never resort to using any melee attacks at all. This is true of all other variations of the Aerialbot as well. Moving on to ranged weapons, the Aerialbot shares a weapon model with the Decepticon Seeker, though the actual weapons themselves are by no means the same. First, the Aerialbot has his primary torque rifle, a slow mid-range weapon which reuses breakaway secondary sound, does 10 damage per hit, and can be fired only 5 times before overheating. Speaking of overheating, the Aerialbot's weapon strangely swaps to the opposite weapon model while overheating, requiring you to switch it or fire it again to return it to normal. Additionally, the Aerialbot has the secondary forward launcher, a slow, straight-shot long-range missile, which reuses ratchet secondary blast sound, does a total of 32 damage per direct hit, and can be fired 5 times before having to cool down. Though its slow speed and lack of a lock-on make it another incredibly ineffective weapon, and it too swaps to the opposite weapon model while overheating. And naturally, the Aerialbot can dash in all 4 directions. Comparing that to the DLC/MP version, who now has the primary electrostatic rifle, a faster, more effective weapon, which again uses breakaway secondary firing sound, but this time fires a spread of 3 bullets, does 51 damage per hit, and can be fired 8 times before having to cool down. Unlike the AI Aerial though, his weapon does not swap models while overheating. So whatever the issue was, they must have fixed it here. His secondary weapon is also completely different, and instead fires a mid-range grenade that again reuses ratchet secondary sounds, does 32 damage per shot, and can be fired 15 times before overheating. Again, maintaining the appropriate model while doing so. It also seems that the playable Aerialbot covers a bit more distance with his dash than the AI bot does. So that's interesting. For his special ability, Aerialbot Scout 2 has a speed boost, similar to Jazz's, that can be used in either robot or vehicle mode. We'll cover the effects of this ability in vehicle mode shortly. Comparing that to the MP/DLC variant, who has the reactor vent,
A little something just for you.
which cools down the weapons of him and his surrounding teammates, allowing them to instantly get back into the action. For melee, the Aerialbot is another one of the only AI enemies that can perform a full free melee combo, with the initial hit doing 30 damage, the second also doing 30, and the final hit dealing 45, resulting in a total maximum damage of 105. The Aerialbot can also perform the charged melee attack, which does 65 damage. This and his previous melee values are all shared with the DLC Aerialbot. And of course, he can kick ambient cars toward opposing forces. Well, that cools the jets for robot mode. Let's lift up into vehicle mode. Aerialbot Scout, transform! Here we have the Aerialbot's alt mode, a slightly modified General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon, which, in fact, is the same vehicle used by Skydive in the original G1 cartoon, with a deco that is likewise taken from Skydive himself. So, in every way, the Aerialbot is a live-action take on Skydive. As you can probably tell, he shares his transformation sounds with Breakaway, and regarding changes made to the actual vehicle mode, there doesn't seem to be too many obvious ones. I wonder if you can get away with quite a bit more similarities for jets or military craft when it comes to licensing. I don't know, that's just what I'm thinking anyway. Still, we shall address what distinctions we can find, as well as compare his deco to his original artwork. Starting up at the nose of the jet, it is colored black, with the pitted tube on the tip being ever so slightly longer than that of a standard F-16. The cockpit hatch has a nice blue tinted glass, though the design of the cockpit differs slightly from the standard F-16, with there being two large frames encasing the glass compared to just one near the back. The rest of the base body shape is more or less identical with the actual F-16, with there not being a whole lot of noticeable differences, nor a lot of deco details to address. The wings strike a nice dark black, with yellow lightning bolts shining the top. There is a slight issue though. On the center edge of the wing is a gray section that realistically should be colored black, like the rest of the wings. Flipping him over for a better view, the Aerialbot has an abrupt contrast with the top and bottom. While the top appears dark black, the bottom is the polar opposite, with the transition between the two being incredibly jarring and definitely could have been smoothed over a bit more. He also has his fuel tanks and missiles, which decos seem accurate enough, though the missiles appear to be fully black on concept art, whereas the fins are slightly brighter on the final texture, but this isn't a huge issue. Back at the tail of the jet, we have his vertical stabilizer with his signature blue and yellow lightning bolt pattern. Interestingly though, the concept art has the Autobot insignia as yellow compared to the red seen here, but I personally think the red looks better. The horizontal stabilizers are primarily gray, with some black edging on the inner sides, with a gray Autobot insignia right above them. Underneath though, he has a strange dark gray pattern along the edges, which, while accurate to the artwork, still looks really odd to me. Finally, closing off at the belly of the jet, he has a red pattern from tip to tail that appears on point with the concept art and has no other standout details to mention. Well, that airs out all the visuals, let's talk gameplay. When it comes to the functionality of the Aerialbot jet, you'll find that it differs slightly from that of the standard jet gameplay. First off, his vertical adjustments are borderline sluggish compared to that of a standard jet, though in contrast, his horizontal turns are much sharper compared to that of a standard jet. So much so that it's even faster than banking, which though he can still perform. He has a standard speed of 100 miles per hour, with Nitro gets up to 145, and when combined with his speed ability, gets him up to 218 miles per hour. He can also perform all 4 stunt maneuvers, his vehicle weapon does 28 damage per direct hit, and is able to be fired 4 times before overheating. When it comes to advanced maneuvers, he can perform all of them, just like his playable counterparts. He can hover, with the movement speed being substantially faster, though he is unable to make any vertical adjustments, unlike the actual AI can, but he seems to be able to maintain the hover indefinitely. He can perform the advanced melee attack, which does 80 damage, and the advanced ground pound, which has a somewhat buggy transformation sequence and does the standard 100 damage. And that's all I've got for the Aerialbot. It's now time to take flight and bring on the fight. Let's see if this guy has what it takes to soar among the sky.
Show these junk files a good time.
Let's see what you got, Aerialbot. Bring it. Excuse me. Hover.
Engage these scrap heaps.
Get launched. On.
Protect them.
This thing sucks. Ground pound. How's that feel? Boom.
Starscream wounded. Hit him again.
Oh, back up. Come on. Get back. Oh, I got him. He got me pretty critical too. Well, that was just one round. Let's do another one and see what happens. Okay, Starscream, round 2. Oh, bumped into each other again. Take this, Screamer.
I'm going after Starscream.
Boom. This guy's weapons are not very good. Get charged for your crimes. That's Cybertron. He's got me this time. Come on. Get launched. Oh, your weapons suck. Oh, he took my head off. Oh, man. Dang, dude. You didn't have to do me like that. Alright, round 3. The power's 1-1. Let's see if that'll change. Boom.
That's a hit.
Where are you? Oh, I hate this gun.
Destroy the Autobots.
This one isn't any better. Come on. Going down, Screamer. Come on. Come on. Break. Ugh. Pull down, darn you.
Don't you think you're a little rusty?
Is this even doing anything to him? I can't tell. Not much, evidently. Ground pound. Oh.
Got him.
Okay, he's got the lead so far. Well, let's do one more round and see who wins that one. Okay, Starscream, last round. God, we keep bumping into each other here. Woo! Not getting me this time. Woo! Ow.
Engage these scrap heaps.
Oh, this gun stinks. Both of your guns stink. Come on, get him.
Take them out. Here comes Starscream.
Donk. Get back. Oh. I got him. Whew. Okay.
Starscream's history.
Well, Aerialbot won that round, but Starscream did manage to get me pretty low pretty frequently, so they seem to be pretty evenly matched overall. Obviously, this guy's weapons aren't that great, and if our enemy was a bit more competent, the outcome of this fight would likely have been substantially different. Well, that is the first Aerialbot. We have 2 more variations to go. Let's zoom on to the next one. Continuing with our second, technically first version of the Aerialbot, we have the standard Aerialbot Scout. This is one of the rarest enemy variations in the game, appearing only once at Deep 6, Rise of the Fallen, this time striking a deco based upon G1 Fireflight, though the deco has been adapted substantially compared to the original G1 source. This is certainly the most vibrant Autobot deco in the game, featuring a primary red color scheme with sharp spots of blue and yellow to spice him up. Since most of his attributes match that of the first Aerialbot we covered, we'll just stick to highlighting any visual differences that occur between the final game design and the original concept art, as well as any distinctive gameplay elements that may differ from the previous Scout. Starting up at the head, the Aerialbot Scout has some black armor on the sides of his head, though they seem to have forgotten to color the insides as well, so that's a bit of an eyesore. And there's a bold red crest dotting the center of his forehead. Overall, though, it looks accurate enough. Proceeding down to the chest, we have some red armor donning the top center, but it seems they again forgot to color the lower side of it as well. Oh, not going to be able to unsee that. The main yellow-blue pattern on the front armor appears to be recreated quite accurately. Looks like they even got the small black sections as well. Moving around to the back, the bulk of the armor appears red, and even has some of his decals uncolored to make them stand out. His vertical stabilizer has the appropriate decal, as indicated by the concept art, and his horizontal stabilizers, while accurate to the robot artwork, are missing the gray edges seen in jet mode. Up at his clavicle region, he has his 2 wings, and while the patterns do appear accurate to the artwork, That is true only for the inner sides. Unfortunately, the outer sides are mirrored with the inner ones, so the details for the outer section don't appear as they do in concept art, which was originally just white with a red Autobot insignia. Disappointing, but it happens. The shoulders appear acceptably simple, with only a single section of red-colored armor dimension that follows what is indicated in concept art. The arms actually have one interesting deviation, however. Though the red armor above the wrist has its inside as blue, somehow, the fingers are actually colored yellow in concept art, but appear red here. That is quite a curious change. Wonder what prompted this adjustment. Moving down to the hips, all the armor on the front looks accurate, with the majority of the sections being fully red, with a couple white sections on the sides. On the back, though, we do have a few inconsistencies. It seems that the side armor appears red from the rear, but since it appears white from the side angle, I'm going to guess this was just a concept art anomaly. There also seems to have been a few dark gray stripes on the panels at the sides of the engines that were an additional touch, that I think looks pretty nice, so bonus points there. The red found on the front thigh armor appears slightly darker compared to the rest of the red on the bot, and the edging of the red appears to be slightly shifted as well, appearing as a straight line instead of having a more angled design, but the bulk of the deco seems correct. Moving round to the back, you have two rear outer armor sections that both appear blue, again imitating what is seen in the concept art. The only point of interest down at the knees is the rear fin, which appears red, with all the rest of the surrounding armor being white. Stomping down with the feet, there are two forward sections of toe armor colored red, and at the rear his inner toes appear red as well. Both features being consistent with the concept art. And that's all for the visual viewpoint. Let's arm up for the gameplay.
Here we go!
Starting with health, the first Aerialbot Scout actually has a maximum health of 300, making him ever so slightly weaker than the second Autobot Scout. When it comes to ranged weapons, he shares the same models with that of the previous bot, though he likewise retains the same issues as well. For his actual weapons, he first has his primary electrostatic rifle, which shares firing sounds with breakaway sniper rifle, does 20 damage per hit, and can be fired 4 times before overheating. Though, like the previous Scout, the gun swaps to the secondary model while overheating, requiring it to be fired or switched to be restored to normal. For his secondary weapon, he has the dual mortar cannons, which fire 2 high arc grenades that naturally share Ironhide's secondary weapon sound, do 20 damage per grenade, resulting in 40 damage combined, and can be fired 5 times before needing to cool down. Of course, it fires at an extremely high arc, requiring you to aim incredibly low, and isn't very practical to use from a ground level. He has no special ability to address, and all his melee functionality is shared with the starting Scout. So, that is all we have to cover for Robot Mode. Let's take flight into Jet Mode. Aerialbot Scout, transform! And here we have the first Aerialbot Scout's Jet Mode. Again, a slightly modified take on the F-16, but this time striking a deco based upon G1 Firefly. Much like Robot Mode, it is extremely colorful and seems to follow the original artwork pretty well. But we'll run through him just to make sure. Starting up at the nose, it appears solid black and has a couple of highlighted white decals on the side, which one can always appreciate. The cockpit is tinted slightly blue, though the actual cockpit appears much fainter in concept art, but nothing too significant otherwise. The pattern on the top of the body is rather pixely in the artwork, but the general shape and design looks to be accurate as far as I can tell. It has a white border, a bright blue middle, and a yellow bolt in the center. Again, accurate with the artwork as far as I can tell. The wing pattern continues to match the artwork, with an Autobot insignia smack dead in the middle, and a blue-yellow-black pattern on the side. He does have a slight anomaly though. He has some red on the outer edge of his wing that should actually be white, similar to what Skydive had. On the bottom of the wings, he has only a red Autobot insignia, which is again accurate with the artwork. Moving toward the tail end, the vertical stabilizers are an exact replica of the concept art pattern, with a white Autobot insignia right below. It has some decals near the engine that should probably appear white, but are still left as red instead. His horizontal stabilizers are primarily red, with some gray edging on the sides. And finally, closing off at the belly of the jet, everything seems to mirror exactly what you see in the artwork yet again, including the blue-yellow pattern in the center. I guess the hole in the center could be a little bit darker, but I'm not too irked by that. And there you have the Aerialbot Scout. Let's see if this fiery flyer has what it takes to deal some decent damage. Let us take up arms, turn around, and take flight.
Here we go!
Alright, Screamer, let's dance.
Engage the target.
Ooh, nope. No. Ah. This thing stinks. That arc is way too high. Woo.
Starscream bolted. Hit him again.
Whammo. Come on.
Hit him.
Woo. Woo.
Engage these Autobot fools.
Come on. Whoa.
Here comes Starscream.
Get blown up. Oh, Screamer is down. Alright, not a bad start. Let's do a few more. Okay, round 2. Bring it, Screamer. Oh,
Got him.
pound it. Dang it. Nope. Whoa. Oh no, I wanted to hover. Woo. Hover! Dang it. Why you no hover? Get him. Get bombed.
Let's give the Autobots a target.
Ah. Come on, Screamer. Ah. Come catch me. Woo. Whoa.
Hit him hard.
Come and get it. Dang it, that sucks. Oh.
That was Starscream. He's hurt.
Nope. No. No. Incoming. Break. Ooh, what are you doing? Oh no.
He winged me.
No. 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 Blow up, fool. Got me. Alright, it's a draw so far. Let's go another round. Okay, round 3. We're 1-1 so far. Let's see who wins this one. Oh,
That's a hit.
Dawn, dang it.
Hurry. Obliterate the target.
Oh. Take this. Whoosh. Catch me now, Screamer. Whoop.
Autobot engage. Encircle and flank it.
Donk. Oh, that was stupid. Come and get it. Oh, got you again, Screamer.
So much for Starscream.
That's 2-1, Screamer. We've got one more round. Let's see who wins. All right, last round. Will it be a draw? Will I be the winner?
That's a hit.
Whoa. Pop. Pop. Boom. Boom. Get bombed. Oh. You'll never catch me. No. That's quirky. What? Screamer! What are you doing? You're not Ramjet. Screamer! Touching down. Come on. Oh, come on. Stop speeding at me. Stop. You're going down, punk. How are you not dead?
Starscream.
Oh, how did he get...
Starscream is victorious again.
Well, I guess that's another draw. Seems that Screamer and the Aerialbots are pretty evenly matched. Well, so be it. Well, we have one final Autobot to do. Let's soar over to him now. And finally, closing off with the last of the Autobot AI and the Aerialbots alike, we have the Aerialbot Leader. The toughest of all the Aerialbot units, the Aerialbot Leader's deco pays homage to G1 Slingshot. It first appears at the downtown East Coast in Down with History. It appears only once more at the same zone in Hunger for Destruction. So yeah, the Aerialbots in general are pretty rare. like the previous Scout we covered, we'll stick to just highlighting any visual distinctions that occur between the final in-game design and the original concept art, as well as any distinctive gameplay elements this bot may have. Starting up with the head, the armor is colored primarily red, and matches the deco from the concept art pretty darn well. Though it does appear slightly brighter in concept art, and it also seems that the side armor is either red or black. It's hard to tell due to the resolution of the artwork, but it certainly does not look white. As a quick aside, it seems that the nose of the jet seen on his upper back, despite being portrayed as black in the artwork, is not colored so here, though it does appear black in jet mode, so I guess this was just a simple oversight for robot mode. Proceeding down to the chest, the deco mirrors the concept art perfectly. The main lower armor is fully red, though the interior of the armor again goes uncolored. But the blue-red striping on the upper armor appears on target yet again. Checking out the back, there is a bright red colored cockpit, horizontal stabilizers on the lower sides with the appropriate red edging, though it is frequently absent in most of the concept art angles, and the distinctive pattern on the vertical stabilizer, which even though is accurate with the robot art, should nonetheless include a red Autobot insignia as seen in vehicle mode. Up at his clavicle region, he has 2 wings, and while the patterns again do appear accurate, that is true only for the inner sides. Unfortunately, like the other bots, the outer sides are mirrored with the inner sides, so the details for one side will appear just as they did on the other. Compared to the artwork, which had the outer wings as clear white, sans a red Autobot insignia. The only point of note to mention for the arms are his hands, which have 2 sections of upper armor colored blue in the artwork, though I think they missed a spot in game, and despite some conflictions on the art itself, I'm gonna say the fingers were indeed intended to be fully red as well, making them accurate with the artwork after all. Moving down to the hips, the front armor deco mirrors the concept art perfectly, with it being entirely red, but having a distinctive blue line running down the inner side armor. The thighs have only a distinctive blue-red line, curving down a section of the outer side armor, with no other standout points to address. And, closing down at the feet, the only feature afoot here is the inclusion of 2 blue rods and knobs at the back of the feet, similar to what we saw with the starting Scout. And that's a lock on the visual look. Let's lean in to the leader's gameplay. Woo! Starting with the health, the Aerialbot leader has a maximum health of 450, making him naturally the toughest of the free Aerialbots. For his weapon model, he shares the same one as used from the previous 2 Aerialbots. For his actual weapons though, he first has his primary electrostatic rifle, which reuses breakaway sniper blast sound, does 9 damage per hit, and can be fired 17 times before overheating, making it one of the more dangerous weapons in the game. Though his overheat animations are still broken, making the weapon model swap to the opposite of what it should be. For the secondary weapon, the leader has the Ball Lightning Shot, which reuses Megatron's primary blast sound effect, does 45 damage per shot, and can be fired twice continuously before it overheats. Of course, you'd think it'd do a lot more damage. I mean, if you're gonna get hit by something this slow, it darn well better near kill you. When it comes to a special ability, the Aerialbot leader can shockingly stun enemies with the EMP stun. This is the last ability I expected him to have. He's generally a mid-air fighter, and typically doesn't end up on the ground in close combat, which is where he would most likely use this, but still, it's pretty cool to know. Well, that's all for the robot mode. Let's flip on over to vehicle mode. Aerialbot leader, transform! Here we have the Aerialbot leader's vehicle mode, which is, again, a slightly modified F-16, with a deco this time inspired by Slingshot from the G1 cartoon. Since all the gameplay components are the same as the previous Aerialbots, we'll just jump straight into whatever visual distinctions can be found on the skin itself. First, the overall color of the base jet appears slightly different compared to the concept art. Instead of being a pure white color, it actually comes off as a darker yellow tinted gray. So that's an overall distinction, but let's go through some more specific sections and see what else sticks out. Starting up at the nose, it does appear dark, but not quite as dark as it does in the concept art. Still, that's a really minor nitpick. The cockpit is a nice bright red-orange color that looks exactly as it does in the artwork. The wing pattern is generally identical to the concept art, but the blue used here is quite a bit more intense, and there does seem to be the addition of a yellow stripe on his side missiles that I can't quite make out in concept art, but it's a nice little addition to include, so I don't really mind that. Going down under, we have his fuel tanks and lower missiles. The deco for both of these sections are fairly consistent. There just seem to be a couple slight changes. The tanks seem to be missing some gray in the rear divide, and the fins at the front of the missile appear slightly brighter than they do on the artwork. But overall, nothing too different here to mention. The vertical stabilizer pattern is much the same as the wing pattern. Shape is on target, but the blue is quite a bit weaker compared to the artwork. But the bot symbol here is included, unlike in robot mode. The horizontal stabilizers have small traces of red on the inner sides, and the two Autobot insignias right above that both line up with what is seen in the artwork. Finally, closing off at the belly of the jet, it's got a bountiful blend of red and gray, in a pattern that looks exactly like the source art, including some gray up by the nose. So overall, not a whole lot was changed from concept to game. And that is our final analysis for the video. All that's left now is to lead this bot into one final aerial assault and see how he fares in battle.
Aerialbots, attack!
Alright, Slingshot, let's go out with a bang.
Yo, Starscream's inbound! Let's squash this bull! Protect them!
Falls out! Huh.
Decepticon engaged!
Come on. I'm coming down to your level. Get stunned! Cool. Sting like a bee. Oh, snazzy dodge.
Woo!
Getting weak. Ow.
Yeah, he's hit! Starscream's been wounded, baby!
Come on. Fall apart, man.
Stop shooting me!
Oh, I got a can move up. Huh. Alright, dog. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Oh, that was epic. Oh, what a takedown. That'll top that. Alright, let's go another round. Alright, Screamer, round 2.
I see the enemy.
Nope. Hover.
I'm on Starscream.
Come on, Screamer. Nope. No. Moving off. I'm coming down, Screamer.
Attack the target.
I'm taking a lot of damage now, right? Balls out! Come on, Starscream. Show me what you got.
Starscream's been tagged.
Alright. Get stunned! Come on. Come on, Screamer. It's gotta be close, right?
I'm hit!
Oh! Blast it, he got me. Okay, another round. 1-1 so far. Oh, how'd that feel? Oh. Ah.
Decepticon alert!
Kill this! Oop. Deal with this. Where you going, Screamer? Come on, Screamer. Ooh, ooh. How do you like these balls? Come on, stun him. Dang it. Come on, get him. Oh, he's in the lead. All right, Screamer. Last round for all the marbles.
Yeah, he's hit! Starscream's been wounded, baby!
Feel that.
Can't get
dang
away,
it.
baby! Where you going? I'm all over you!
Oh, put him down fast. Okay, I think we'll call that another draw. Yeah, all in all, Starscream and the Aerialbots are pretty evenly matched. I've had a draw in pretty much every single showdown. Well, with the Aerialbot leader's assessment complete, we are finally done with the video. Let's close this off and wrap it up.
Woo!
And there you have all the Revenge of the Fallen Autobot enemies in the game. Oh boy, this has officially gone down as the longest video I have ever done for this channel, and I say every single ounce of work poured into this thing was well worth it. Before I close off here, I want to shout out a Shocking Wave for his attempts in getting actual playable engine sounds for the Omnibot Warrior, as well as Ken Christensen's Badflip blog, which is where I acquired the majority of the concept art and the background information used in the video. You should check it out if you want to learn any additional information on the development process for all the AI characters. Whew, but yeah, this has easily been one of the most involved video projects I have ever done. A lot of writing, editing, and filming went into this project, and I truly hope it surpassed any expectations you had. Well, with the Autobot video done, that leaves the Decepticon video to be completed next. And as much as I'd love to say that I'll have that up by next week, I honestly haven't done a shred of work on it yet. Now don't worry, I'm gonna start work on it straight away, but it's gonna be a good while until you actually see it. But in the meantime, I will try and fill the void with some other content. Well, I'm gonna close it off here. I hope you all found this video entertaining and insightful, and that I did justice to all the Autobot enemies in the game. I will see you next time, where we dive into all the Decepticon enemies in the game, whenever that ends up being. Till then, later!